Hi there, Taurus. Welcome to a reading that is about your abundance mindset. I was looking for the word because I've already done a couple of these and I couldn't. I'm going to do like two sets of these types of readings. The other ones will probably be at the end of the month and we'll cover the months October through December. I've done those types of readings before and they will be more straightforward in just terms of like looking at the energies and stuff around your finances and other ways that you may feel abundant in life. But this is about the mindset. So I used one spread for the first two readings and I found another one. I was looking for that one and I found another one. I thought, wow, I'm going to try this one with Taurus. It's always a little tricky when you have like these multiple placements and each one stands for a certain question that you're trying to answer because I like to do the tarot more open-ended. Although, when I do spreads, I do them I have different positions. So anyway, this is from biddytarot.com. That's a very big website for tarot if you are into that kind of thing and you need to reference something. That's a good place to go from my experience. So I'm just going to lay out the cards and then I haven't worked with the spread before, so I'm going to have to really look at it. So even the way you lay out the cards is kind of unusual. So let me do that first. I need a little bit of room up here. And then 3 at the bottom. I like that shape. I'm picking up this pile. I'm just going to do 3 cards in a row here. Okay. So there we go. So the first position is, what is my current mindset around money and abundance? Well, that's good. That's what I like to see with Taurus. 9 of Cups, wish fulfillment. This is a card that is about something really great coming in. Now, obviously, we have different attitudes at different times in our life. So you may be feeling very positive about money. Also, just in general, about what money may mean for you, that you may see it as something to make you feel good, because this is a feel good type of card. Cups are our feelings, but it's also very positive energy. And I totally believe that about Taurus from what I have seen in my life. Of course, sometimes if people have money trauma, if they grow up like, the child of parents from the Great Depression, that will do it. I certainly, I had parents that were born during or experienced the Great Depression. And that really shifts your mindset. Even if you're typically more of a spendthrift, you're going to be a lot more careful. But in general, I think Taurus being ruled by Venus means that you really have that pleasure principle down when it comes to that. It's funny, I was just thinking about that. I remember I used to like that song by Janet Jackson, and she's a Taurus. So I don't know if she wrote it, but it certainly exemplifies the typical Taurus person when it comes to money. All right, so what's the second card? What limiting belief is blocking my financial flow? The High Priestess. Well, that's a spiritual card in and of itself. So, I mean, we could look at this many ways. First off, and I see this a lot with the spiritual community, is this idea of like, and especially with like younger people. I'm Gen X, and I think like Gen Z is big on this, but even millennials a little bit, about having a love-hate relationship with money. And I did a video on Neptune and Capricorn, and that's kind of like for the millennial generation, I think, pretty much. And what I was saying is that that generation has an uncanny ability to tap into the material energy in a way that is spiritual on all fronts. It's spiritual in the sense that they might have like kind of an intuitive ability to make money in the first place, to know how to make it, but also to put it to good use, to be very mindful of it. And one of the things that we're seeing with these younger generations is a rejection of corporate policies. I was in a Starbucks the other day, and that's not typical for me. And there was nobody there, and this was in a very woke area that usually it would be brimming. So I don't know if they're, because I know they're having labor issues. So, you know, that kind of thing where younger people tend to be working in that type of industry, and they may reject the corporate brand in favor of indie brands that have more concern about individuals in some cases. I'm not, bashing Starbucks. I don't really know about their policies. I don't work there, so I can't say anything. But just, that was just giving you an example of that. So, and even if these people don't really link it to spirituality, they link it to morality. Okay. So that's one possibility. There are going to be outlier Taurus people who feel like, and they may have like a materialistic makeup, and I'm saying that in a non-judgmental way, like a material way of dealing with life is Taurus rules the house of the money that we earn. So it doesn't get much more materialistic than that. But I'm not talking about greed. I'm just talking about being immersed in it. And so you are like that. But if you feel like you're on a spiritual path, you may find it very conflicting to be one way when it comes to material things and then try to be spiritual. And I think that is going to be true much more so if you're on the younger side, because I think that those souls came in to break up these corporations and that type of life that's falling. The governmental agencies and that kind of thing is falling. Everything is falling that's like with these structures. But corporations are one of those structures. Also, I feel like the other extreme can be true for some people. I would find it hard to believe that anybody watching this would fall into that category, any Taurus person. But anyway, it's the opposite, which is that the person is discarding or ignoring their spiritual side in favor of the material. And that sort of person may think, oh, that's for the hippies, or that's for somebody that doesn't have like a game plan, doesn't have a vision for themselves. I have a vision. I want to achieve this, or I want to make a lot of money, but they're doing it for selfish reasons. We call that service to self. versus service to others. If you know anything about the new earth, what we're stepping into, what we're evolving into, it's going to be different. It's not about, every man for himself, every person for themselves. It's not like that anymore. And those people that try to hold on to that self-serving attitude are going to find out, they're going to F around and find out because it's just going to be different. So it could be some spiritual thing that is kind of imbalanced in some way, either underdeveloped or overdeveloped. I don't know if you can overdevelop your spirituality though. Okay. The third thing is, where did this belief originate? And that is up here. Oops, I dropped my other phone. The Knight of Wands. Now, the Knight of Wands is connected to the sign of Sagittarius. And this is a card that I would symbolize as freedom and kind of breaking out of the matrix, okay? So again, like if you have harbor any ideas of, making money as selling out, or that it's part of the matrix. Yeah, I mean, there are people that really hate the fact that we even have to have like currency or anything like that. Maybe they're reincarnation of a time when there wasn't currency. Native Americans, I mean, they always were trading with something. Money is symbolic of energy. The energy it takes to do something. So when you barter with someone, I bartered with someone in terms of like they made something for me and I gave them a reading. And it's not to say, oh, it's terrible, but I didn't like it because it's like you're always thinking, okay, well, is this really a fair trade? Or, it's hard to really gauge that kind of thing. So money is kind of impersonal, and it's something that it's universal. You can just use it. You don't always have to work for something. It's kind of like, stored energy. It's pretty cool when you think about it in that way. And so for some people, the idea of freedom can clash with working and having like a steady job. And that's why some people who live outside the system, they may work for a bit and then they take off for 6 months or whatever. And that, I think that is a great idea and kind of like a great, what would you call it? Like compromise. If, you have to do that thing, but you want that freedom and you want to call your own shots, then it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Because even if you're doing something, I'm going to say, even if you're a barista, not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I would actually like to learn how to do that. I think that's a great skill. But if it's something that feels more draining to you for whatever reason, you know that you only have to do it for X amount of time because you're saving your money or what have you. And it's interesting too, because I actually associate the Knight of Wands with Aries, because knights are part of like they're warriors, and Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war. So it could also be something like, especially if you're a Taurus person and you have Mars and Aries, you could easily have Mars and Aries. And so even though Taurus is known as being very patient, people like that would be more impatient about their life and what they're doing. And so that could lead them to want to have everything happen overnight instead of actually this card is like tending to the garden and investing energy. So and I don't know what that card represents. So let me see. That's the fourth card. Um, what truth am I ready to embrace instead? Okay, well, perfect, because I can talk about this card. And oh, it's nine. I thought it was the Seven of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles is about financial independence. And, some people, they don't realize that as long as they have to make money, especially if they're kind of living paycheck to paycheck, then they're going to feel like really, really stuck. So for those Taurus people who kind of have that desire for luxury, that desire for something, like just having your senses, like the sensuality of it, having all your senses satisfied. What you could do if you feel like, you spend too much money and you feel like you're always like kind of playing catch up, or you never can just like relax, because there's a very relaxed feeling about the Nine of Pentacles because the person is able to call their own shots. So one thing you can challenge yourself is saying, I'm not going to spend any unnecessary money for the next year. The only money that I'm going to spend is for things that I have to have. So I'm going to keep the same clothes, even if I get bored with them. I'm going to keep, maybe you decide you don't go out to dinner for a year or out to eat at all. If you, buy lattes, that you either quit coffee or you make things at home, and see how much money you can save and how that makes you feel. That's one thing that came to mind, thinking about that particular position. Okay, I'm just going to keep going because I've already been doing 17 minutes here. How can I align, this is card 5, how can I align my energy with abundance? Okay, well, this is a strange card to get for that. Nine of Swords is a card of anxiety. So what I would say is about doing self-inquiry. How do you feel anxious when it comes to money? Do you have any fear-based beliefs? Because this is, I've been kind of characterizing Taurus in one sort of way, but there are going to be Taurus people, like I said, maybe you had money trauma or something like that, where spending money does not come easy to you. I know somebody in particular who's a Taurus who's like that, or at least was in the past. And trace it back to where you think it originated, because you'll get more information about what is really going on and what is really triggering you. Sometimes, like I said, it can kind of reopen old wounds of deprivation, the fear of like, am I going to be able to do this or have that? And that can feel, especially for a Taurus, especially for an earth sign, that can feel very traumatic. So aligning beliefs is letting go of fear. Being fear-based there's no place for that in manifestation. But understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying throw caution to the wind. And, there's like a practice that has been advocated to like spend money that you may not have. And they say act as if. And, some people may just like run up a credit card so they can try to feel rich when they don't have the money. I think that's grossly irresponsible, not only for somebody to do that, but for someone to advocate to do that. even if it actually worked for them. I think that we should never, if we're making content on videos, that we should never recommend that somebody do something that is putting themselves in a financial hole, because in case it doesn't work out, then they're going to be twice as screwed. So you can act as if simply by, like for instance, I live near Chicago. I could go downtown within half an hour, okay? Go downtown, go to this area that's actually a little bit north of the actual downtown proper, called the Gold Coast, but it's still considered part of downtown. I could walk down those streets, mingle with those people. That could be an example of it. And you can pack a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if you want. Or, one of the things you can do is you can go into these, you can go into like a fancy area, and I've done this myself. It's kind of like a trip, and buy something. Maybe you buy a latte, and you buy like some kind of thing to go along with that latte. Maybe it costs $15. Well, it's not $30. It's not $50. If you have $15 to spare, you buy it and you sit there and you just see, how does this feel to be around people who are coming in and out of an establishment, and that they are like rolling in dough. How does it feel to be next to them? You may not like the feeling in some cases, and that gives you information too. It's like you may not resonate with that vibe, but you may resonate with the idea of, wow, what would it be like to make this kind of money, or to have that kind of money? And that just provides you information. It's a heck of a lot better than that kind of fear. And I'm talking about for the people that really, are holding on to a lot of negativity involving money. That could be something that is low cost, but still gives you that feeling of being in that environment. Okay. What practical step can you take to increase prosperity? Wow, it's so funny because I got this card, Queen of Cups, which the reason I'm laughing about practical is because it is the card of the psychic, the artist, the mother. This is the mother archetype. It might be connected to Cancer because Cancer is a water sign. The cups are water signs, I suppose. I think someone said it was Scorpio. I don't know. But anyway, it's water energy. That's why they're showing water. Cups are water. And so is Queen. That is connected to the water element too. So it's double water. So double water is feminine, double feminine. Feminine is receptive. In Law of Attraction, they have the art of allowing. People, maybe you're one yourself, who is into hustle culture, although Taurus usually is too chill to be into hustle culture. But that idea of like just going after the money, going after, whatever it is that you want. And that, I think that hustle culture, or, hustling, has its place, first of all, when you need money and you need it fast, but also when, let's say you start a business, you may want to really put in a lot of hours on the front end so that you can relax more later on, because you want to get it up and running as soon as possible. It could be that. And so to me, that is a form of hustle. But in general, we have to do both. We have that time when we're really kind of exerting a lot of effort into something, and then we're sitting back and we're watching it come to us. That's the passive aspect of it. It's not all about elbow grease. It's not all about the masculine kind of grind. It's also about allowing, about being passive, about allowing things to happen in their own time. And so the people that double down, try to make something, they can really increase their resistance to getting what they want. So that's the big one that comes up for me. I also think with Queen of Cups, because it is connected to creativity, I feel like, especially if you're someone who is creative, but you're like, no, I have to work, and, creativity is a hobby. I'll do that some other time. If that's something that you really love, I think by doing what you love, you get what you want. Point blank. Okay, here come the landscapers. We gotta wrap this puppy up. Okay, last card. What is the potential when I fully embody an abundant mindset? 8 of Wands, everything kind of taking off like a rocket. So maybe where there is stagnancy, all of a sudden there is movement. Sometimes it just can be as simple as, recognizing that this is something that is important to do. Maybe you're the kind of person who is not really sure, you're being pulled in different directions. And so it's very hard to feel confident in that what you are aiming to do is the right path, because you might be meandering a little bit, or maybe things seem to be stuck. And Taurus, I have Taurus rising. I know very well and good that Taurus, being a fixed sign, can get into a rut, can just get, and part of it is that comfort zone. When, I always joke, like when people say, you have to get out of your comfort zone, I say, what's wrong with the comfort zone? What's wrong with being comfortable? I want to be comfortable. But the reason is, it's not wrong, but the stagnancy will start to affect a person after a while. At first, they may feel like, hey, I'm chill. I'm just kind of here. But after a while, it can get monotonous, and the person can really, they may not understand it, but they're not growing. So when you're not growing, it reminds me of a line by Bob Dylan. And he said, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. He who is not busy being born is busy dying. That's one of his most famous quotes, because death comes from lack of growth. So, and of course, I'm not talking about physical death. I'm talking about just a sense of stagnancy and things not moving. And 8 of Wands is like that forward movement. All right, Taurus, that's what I have for you. I hope that resonated. If you would like a private reading, I do the tarot, but I also do astrology. I have package deals, some with tarot and astrology. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for watching. Bye.